questions to ask throughout a campaign with the confidence rising. I told JC Nate and Rich that good times are coming, no need for deep diving. Fan Cam's reactions, watch alongs to the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South stay flying. Keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.
Yes, how are we going, guys? This is Eagle Eye Football, and this is the Leicester match preview at the King Power. I'm here with a very good friend of the channel, Chris. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, like I said, mate, living the dream. Just checking out all the championship previews, so I know what I'm talking about next season.
Well, we can't think too negative already. We're not even halfway through the season yet. You can't already start thinking like that.
Have you watched Leicester this season?
No.
No, exactly.
Yeah, well, you are the Leicester guy, and we can talk about Leicester. So, I think let's start off with, what's your thoughts on the season so far, as you've already alluded to it?
Well, I mean, pull a chair up, get yourself a brew, and let's go. I mean, it has been it's just been a calamity of errors all round. I mean, we couldn't buy anybody during the summer. And Leicester's philosophy is that we will buy players in like we have with Chilwell, Maguire, and make money on them and sell them off to some club will come in and make us a ridiculous offer for them. We expected that to be Tielemans, but it didn't happen because it coincided with the whole club struggling. We also hit problems with financial fair play. Not the Premier League, but UEFA, which is a lot more stringent. We only passed that because you were allowed, if you're in European competition, you're allowed a certain dispensation because of COVID, because obviously you were not getting the income in. So we were allowed, if it hadn't been for that, we would have broken FFP. Now, I can see what our chairman was thinking, and that was, for God's sake, if we do get back into Europe, which is obviously our aim, was anyway, we don't need to be banned or fined money that we haven't got because of the FFP. So we couldn't go out and buy anybody. We had 27 players. We can only register 25. So we either do what Barcelona do, which is sign players anyway, and then they sold off part of their media company to pay for it, or, which we couldn't afford to do, or we do what Leeds United did all those years ago, which was basically gamble on us getting into Europe. And if we don't, and as it happens, look where we are. If we don't get into Europe, look what happened to Leeds. It took them 30 odd years to get back. So the chairman did the right thing with what he was doing. However, he should have come out and told everybody. We didn't know until the Man United game when he wrote it in the programme notes, which basically was the last day of the transfer window. That's when we found out. By then, you'd had so much discontent building. Rodgers had been hung out to dry because basically they said, why aren't you signing any players? And all he could say is, well, I need to sell first to buy, which was technically true, but it was like putting a giant fire sale notice up above the King Power. So he was, as I say, hung out to dry. We then had Tielemans still not going, still not been able to get any money from that. And then Fofana throwing his toys out the pan, being a typical Frenchman and saying, I'm sorry, Patrick Vieira, we seem to have problem with French players, and refusing to play. My mind's not in the right place. Well, he sat in the crowd watching us play. I think it was Southampton. James Maddison scored a goal, and he didn't even look up from his phone, didn't even applaud his teammates or anything like that. So that caused a lot of bad feeling. We had no head of recruitment in, not that he could have done anything if he'd come in. We had a set piece coach that was coming in, but couldn't get a visa. He was from America. Apart from that, it was been a really good season.
Well, from where I'm sitting, it sounds like everything's gone wrong.
Basically, we lost Kasper Schmeichel, which, as a keeper, he was at his sell-by date, but as a leader, God, we miss him.
Yeah.
So, and the board will not make the decision to sack Rodgers. You know, it said it will cost us 10 million. Well, we've got 10 million left from the Fafana sale because we only spent half of that on face. So we've got that, but how much will it cost us if we get relegated?
Yeah,
a hell of a lot more than £10 million.
Oh yeah, you do get the parachute payments, but that doesn't equate to what you need to fund that squad. Because I can tell there's some big earners in there as well, aren't there?
Exactly. We've got a lot of overpaid average players in our squad that even less people are going to want if we get relegated. There is money in the pot because we've got the ground expansion planned. We've got the infrastructure and the ground that's all around the actual ground itself is going to be developed. Well, if we go down, that's all going to be put on hold because you're not going to spend a few £100 million on hotels and buildings and what have you when we're in the championship. So I just don't know why you won't make that decision.
I think one thing that stuck out to me,
asking, won't it?
I think one thing that stuck out for me personally is that the chairman came out about this FFP thing, seemingly in how you phrased it, that Rodgers only found out that late in the window as well, which is why nothing was happening. If he was told earlier, wouldn't you have maybe dipped into the free agent market, maybe tried to blood a few more youngsters through in pre-season to try and make that transition to the start of the Prem a lot easier so that you wouldn't be doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, exactly. Because there wasn't, there's always one or two half-decent free agents out there. But Brendan Rodgers spent the summer holidays contacting, convincing people to come in. There was links in the press every other day, and apparently there was 2 or 3 that were basically waiting to sign. Now, the problem our chairman has is that we are not, unless he goes, back home tonight and goes and digs a hole in his back garden in Thailand and oil spurts out. Yes, he's rich, but he's not an oil millionaire, if you like. His business is tourism and duty free, so hotels and duty free, which has been hit so badly during COVID. He's having to try and sort that out. It's just, and everybody says, well, the Thai people are very insular, they don't always give a lot of interviews. Well, we've got a press officer, for God's sake. What was he doing sat there with his thumb up his arse? It appears nobody could talk. And if I was Brendan, I'd be absolutely pissed off.
He has a right to be.
Yeah, he's made it, he's made him look a fool now. Whether Top was thinking, oh God, if I can do this, it will come off. I just don't know what the communication was going on.
Well, yeah, I personally, I didn't know about any of this FFP stuff that was going on with Leicester. But I thought after you guys have won the FA Cup, I thought it would have been, all right, cool, we're in Europe again. Let's go step up. But you never really did.
The problem last season was that, and I'm going to sound like a Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool fan here. The problem last season was that we were hit by tremendously loads of injuries. We had, during the season, I think it was nearly 40 players injured at some point during the season. I say 40, obviously, probably more 30, 35, because you've got youth players in there and everything as well, so that you could normally bring in that you couldn't because of injuries. We had 9 of our defensive players at some point were injured. The goalkeeper had no idea what his back 4 was going to be, or his back 3. Brendan Rodgers, and we joke about this, but he'd go into the training room, just before kickoff saying, right, who's fit? And if 5 hands went up, we'd have a back 5. If 4 hands went up, we'd have a back 4. Vestergaard was brought in because of Fofana's injury in the pre-season friendly. He wasn't given a chance because every week he was playing with a different set of players in the defence. So that really didn't help. And because of this, Soyuncu, for example, was deemed not to have a good season. But he was brought back, having had a very poor Euros with Turkey. He was brought back injured. When he got to that stage, they call it the red zone, I think, or the red zone, where you're actually fit, but you're not really match fit. Really, you shouldn't be sort of being played. But he was, because we were that desperate. We hadn't got any other defenders. So he wasn't totally match fit, being played. So then he had to go off because he was injured again. That said, we finished 8th and we got to a European Cup semi-final. So overall, not a bad season. We've also got to remember West Ham were up there with us. They've fallen away a little bit. Why are these teams falling away? Well, the other teams that are coming back, they're like the Spurs, the Arsenal, they'd fallen away for a few seasons. We'd filled that gap, but now they're coming back, and they're coming back stronger because of their ownership and the money they can spend. So it's harder to get back into those positions. But yeah, last season was purely the injuries, and that's why I was prepared to stick with Rodgers last season, because of all the injuries.
Yeah, let's hit some comments. We got Louis with a square, so he must be on an Android phone. Best intro in YouTube. You already know.
It was a good intro. Big up, guys.
Chairman, good evening. Got a friend that's a Leicester fan. He wants them to lose. We're going to get onto that. We're going to get onto it, Chris. Don't you worry. Why didn't they use the Fofana money? I think it was... I'm not sure.
Squad numbers. We'd got 27. We sold Fofana. We'd got 26. So, we then had to sign his replacement. So we got Face in, which again is 27. But we're only allowed to register 25 players. So if we do go out and buy another 5 and register them, we've then got 5 of the current squad that we can't register, but we're still paying 70 odd plus grand a week.
Lastly, Nate, he's been stuck on that tram. I can tell it's the tram because he always gets stuck on the tram on the way home from work. So hopefully he'll jump in soon. But about this match that's happening on this weekend, how do you think it's going to go?
My head tells me you're going to beat us. My heart tells me, because it's back at Leicester with the crowd, we might just be able to maybe not do a Nottingham Forest over you, but we might get something.
I'll let you have a go. Rodgers, does he need to stay or does he need to go?
Right. Well, here we go.
I'll find a drink, but I've already finished mine.
He has got to go. We have actually banned birthday messages on the stadium scoreboard this weekend because fans had been booking things from Brenda Nout, which is obviously Brenda Nout when you say it fully, and Zach, Z-A-K, Zach Rodgers. And he weren't going to put them up on the board. Somebody at the club found out. He's got to go. He is. I can remember before that Man United game, Robbie Savage stood at the side of the pitch doing his TV bit, saying, "You know what? If it wasn't for Rodgers, this club would get relegated." Well, Robbie, bullshit, because we've got Rodgers, and it looks like we're going to get relegated. He is supposed to be this fantastic bloody coach, and yet he's been outthought and out-tacticked by Ralph Utenhall, who has had 2 lots of 9-0s past him. He's been outthought by a guy at Bournemouth who's never been a manager before and has only had 4 matches as a caretaker manager, and yet he's been able to out-tactic him. The guy is a fraud. Any manager, you could go into Manchester City and get them to first or second, third in the table because of the players that are there. You could go to Celtic or Rangers and win either first or second with the table with them. Could Pep Guardiola go to Nottingham Forest with the players they've got and do a good job there? It's doubtful. It is doubtful. But Rodgers would say he's always been, he's such a great coach and he's one of the best coaches in the country. Bollocks. No, he's not. As if he was. He has got 10 of the squad that lost to Southampton 2-1 were in the squad that beat them 9-0.
10 still?
Yeah, this is it was only a couple of seasons ago. This is the squad virtually. Less now, Farner was injured, so you can't count him. This is the squad that won the FA Cup. In fact, we've added to that squad because we've got Daka and Soumare. So he's actually making us worse. Because he's got those players that got to that position. And, if what he doesn't understand is, and I've been a manager, and obviously not in football, but a manager in any walk of life, when he looks at his staff, if he cannot work out, if his staff are not performing to the way that he wants, he's got to look at that and goes, right, am I using them to their best abilities?
Mm-hmm.
Why have I got a member of staff here that can speak Chinese on the Polish desk? And what you do is you play the players you've got to their strengths. Rodgers doesn't do that. Rodgers is so stubborn that, all I will say is thank God he wasn't in the Northern Ireland peace process, or we'd still be at bloody war. He is so stubborn. He will, we did zonal marking for half a season before he accepted it wasn't working. And I'm sorry, the guy has got to go. He makes his substitutions on 65 minutes. We have conceded more goals in the 60th to 90th minute than any other part of the game. What does that tell you? In fact, I've got the stats. I don't know if it's yourself or Nate that's coming on later onto my show, but I've got the stats to show that.
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that because we've got the exact same problem. I think I read the stat the other week, but that was before the Leeds game, and I think before the Chelsea game as well. That I think before those 2 games, I think 70% of all goals we have conceded this season have been 75 onwards.
Yeah.
So we have been very bad late on in the match.
I'm looking at it now. From 60 to 90 minutes, both of us are absolutely shite.
Yeah, exactly.
So if anybody gets stuck in traffic, don't worry, because now it will happen until the 60th minute. We may have scored a couple of goals because we do like to score in like the first 15 minutes. But by then, Rodgers will have made his substitutions. He'll have come back in, but it could be a goal fest in that last half an hour, to be honest with you.
We'll go back to some comments. It must have been a salute. Okay, cool. Easy trap to fall into. Crystal Palace is assuming it's a walk in the park. Our record against Leicester is fairly hot hit and miss. I think I agree because we've had some very convincing wins over you guys, and I think we've had some very convincing losses. I think specifically we've been, I think we've been the best at the King Power, if anything.
Well, we've played each other 20 times in the Premier League. We've won 8. You've won 8, and there's been 4 draws. So it's pretty even. You've won 4 away, and we've won 5 at home. So there's not a slip of paper between us, really.
Yeah. The final whistle comes
Right,
in.
Jack.
How you doing? Nate's correcting his spell check. Henry saying, Chris, you need Big Sam to come and save you.
God, I mean, did you know what? About well, it was like a game into the season. I know it might have even been last season, and another Leicester fan channel suggested that Sean Dyche came in, and I literally spat my tea over the computer because he said it was live. And I'm actually thinking, because I've seen him on a few interviews since he's left, and I'm thinking, actually, he might not be the wrong person for the job. He could probably keep us up. Because I tell you what, he'd come into shape, but he would also, what he would do is play to their strengths, like I say. So maybe not Big Sam, but certainly Big Sean.
Big old Dashi.
Yeah,
Rich.
as long as it's not Roy Hodgson, I won't bother.
Don't worry, I don't think he's coming out of retirement this time. Smash like button and subscribe and the notification bell. That is another one, so you're notified every single time that we go live, we post a video, or if we do anything.
Is that Rich?
Yeah, this is Rich, the eagle-eyed football guy. Subscribe to man like Chris and the final whistle as well.
Cheers, Rich.
Leicester played okay in the first half against Bournemouth, but when they conceded, they fell apart.
When we made substitutions, we fell apart. That was it.
Who would you bring on? Which would be the problem? Because I know that we were interested in signing Sumare. Is he one of the problems?
Actually, no. Brendan Rodgers is very contradictory in what he says.
Okay.
He says one thing, and then it gets shown up as being, he complained that the players were knackered when they played Arsenal, and that's why we lost. Knackered when we played Brentford in the first game, and yet he only made 2 substitutions out of his 5. He complained that when we played Arsenal, we had the most immature, one of the youngest squads going, and yet we had. We then went on to play Southampton, who had one of the youngest squads ever in the Premier League, and they beat us. So he blames everybody but himself. We've got a defender, Soyuncu. Yes, he didn't have a very good season, but I explained why earlier. But apparently, because he's not, in Rodgers' eyes, performing in training and has talked about, moving on, he's not picking him. And so he's picking and making changes and bringing. And don't get me, I love Amati. He was fantastic last season. He was the only fit defender for the whole season, and he did what he was asked to do. But he isn't Soyuncu. But Soyuncu's not even making it on the bench because Rodgers is so pig-headed. And yet he plays Tielemans. And don't get me wrong, you'd cut your nose off to spite your face, you could say, if you don't play Tielemans. But he's not playing well. That's why nobody's coming for him, because he's absolutely shite. But because he's so good at licking Rodgers' arse, he gets picked every week. And yet Pratt's been injured. So he is just so stubborn in like I say, the players he picks. And you do get players that don't. You get players that give all in training and are fucking shite when it comes to the 90 minutes on the pitch.
Manzi says, Chris, big up, lads. Has Rodgers gone yet?
Fortunately not. No.
Yeah, or sub to Manzi as well, man. Great guy. Hazza, how you doing? Nate says Nigel Pearson's available.
Yeah, I mean, he's come back twice, but again, you've got to look back, and it wasn't Nigel Pearson that kept us up that season, that got us promoted, that did so well. It was Nigel Pearson, Craig Shakespeare, Steve Walsh. It was the team, because they were bringing, they brought Riyad Mahrez and all and those players through. If he was to come back now, he would come back on his own, so he wouldn't be the same manager that he was when he was with us before. It's like Clough was never the same once Peter Taylor passed away, rest in peace.
So things for you haven't been too bright, but a bright spark in your team, but a definite bright spark in your team right now is James Maddison. How good is he? And two, how is he shining so much compared to everyone else in this team?
To be honest with you, I could put a pair of boots on, have a half decent game, and win man of the match for Leicester. I mean, you don't have to be. It doesn't have to be hard to be good in that Leicester team at the moment because everybody else is so bloody awful. That said, taking nothing away from Maddison, he's not carrying the team because no team is one player. Man United isn't Ronaldo. You're not Zaha. But there are players that he is carrying the team in as much as he's the one that makes things happen. But, and this is good news for you, and this is probably one of the reasons why he's not being picked. He got so frustrated at the week against Bournemouth, and he went in with a horrendous tackle towards the end of the game that got him a booking. If he was lucky, it wasn't a red card, if I'm honest with you. And yes, he's matured a lot because he's had a baby, he's settled down, so he's matured a lot, and you can see that, and he's developing as a player, but he's still got that little bit of madness in his head, if you like. But if it wasn't for him, we'd be bottom of the league. Oops. I know we are. Before anybody goes mad, I know we are. I was joking. Yeah, he is our shining star this season. Will he stay? I mean, Newcastle are reckoned to be coming in for. Newcastle, peace be off. I get that players, especially when a team is struggling. We got Maguire from Hull when they got relegated. It happens. It's part of the game. However, Newcastle, you've got a bit of money. Okay. Don't come in with an offer so derisory that it would get, turned down straight away. And don't come in when you've got the money that you've got. Don't come in and say, can we buy him, but can we pay you later? Which is basically what they wanted to do. They wanted to take him and pay us later. I mean, I love Newcastle, but fuck off. I mean, I'm sorry. Where did you get off? When has that ever happened? Yes, obviously installments, because, 60 million might not be sort of available in loose change, but not this we'll pay it all at a later date. Yeah, right, will you fuckers like. So come in with a serious offer. I don't think he'll make it to the World Cup, so I don't think if he changes clubs now, it'll be after the World Cup anyway. I'm not sure about him. He's got another year left after this season on his contract. Will he go? I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't blame him at the moment because at the end of the day, he's a Coventry lad from the East Midlands, so his family are down here. His last club was Norwich, which isn't a million miles away. But if he was to go to better his career, who can blame him? Because this is not the Leicester that was winning the Premier League. This is not the Leicester that was winning the FA Cup and the Community Shield and in Europe. This is the Leicester that's bottom of the league.
I think we should move on to this combined 11. So what the rules are is you need to have at least 3 Palace players or at least 3 Leicester players. You need to have at least 3 opposition players in your team.
Okay.
So we'll start.
What I'll do is I'll put the Leicester players in there first because that's going to be easier, and you'll see why in a minute. So, who am I going to go for? Okay, so at left back, and I really don't know whether you've got a better left back or not because I'm very limited on my knowledge of Crystal Palace players. But on the left back, I would put James Justin.
Yep.
Right wing. On this formation, I would put James Maddison.
Yep.
Now, what else have we got there? Left centre midfield, I would put Kieran Dewsbury Hall.
How do you spell Dewsbury Hall?
Type in Dewsbury, DWSBURY. You should come up.
There you go, Dewsbury Hall.
And as a striker, I'd put Patson Daka. Apart from that, you can have the rest of the team.
Okay, so
I mean that's the fairest way I can say it, because none of the players in any of the other positions for Leicester would I suggest having,
Okay, so I think we as Palace fans are all we're all in a little bit of disagreement with Vicente Gaeta because he's had a bit of a shocker lately. He can't kick anymore. His decision making is terrible. He's not doing too well right now, and if anything, we really want him to be substituted for Sam Johnstone to start. But what I have to say is I don't watch Leicester, but what I'm seeing from Danny Ward, I think that Gaeta has to go in here.
It's not all Danny Ward, in fairness. I think a goalkeeper sometimes is only as good as his defence. But yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. I'm not going to say you should have Danny Ward in there at the moment.
I think the centre backs, I'm very happy to take Mark and Anderson. Mark Gay and Joachim Anderson. Right back, I can almost guarantee you've got a better right back because we've got 2 right backs injured, or 3 technically. We've got Nathan Ferguson injured, Nathaniel Klein's injured, and Chris Richards is injured. All we've got is Joe Ward.
Well, I'll join you there because we've got Ricardo Pereira, who's out long term.
Yep.
And we've got Castagna, who is a doubt for the weekend. If I knew Castagna was going to be 100% fit, I would have put Castagna in there. But I thought you might have a player that was at least playable there. I
put it this way: can Justin play right back?
You could put it in. Yeah, I mean, he's better at left back because that's where he can play either. So if you want to put Justin on the right back and you've got a decent left back,
yeah, I would say if we put James Justin at right back, because I think that Tyreek Mitchell could get in at this left back position. In the centre of midfield has to be our new signing in the midfield. It's got to be Czech Decore. He has been unbelievable for us this season. And the other guy in midfield would have to be the goal scorer of last week, Eze.
Yeah. I think he's got quite a few against us, hasn't he?
I'm not sure. I think he scored one a couple. I think in lockdown. Up our left wing, it has to be Wilf. I'd love to put Michael Elise in at this right wing position, but from how Maddison's playing so far this season, I don't think I can. If we're looking at form, currently right now, I'm very inclined to put Edouard up top here. He's got 2 in 2 as we going into this game.
I mean, he was, as you know, massively linked with us before. I mean, Daka's got. In fact, he's got 2 in 2 as well.
Okay.
He scored against Forest and he scored against. But he got the opening goal against Bournemouth with a very cheeky Vardy-esque backflip. So I'm going to stick with Daka. But I haven't seen Edouard, so, it's your show at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, obviously, bias is going to come into this. I'm a Palace fan. I'd much rather choose Edward.
I mean,
You're a Leicester
let's
fan.
be honest with you. You've probably never been having that that easy to put your players in before. I've only taken 4 places.
Well, you say that, but when we did the Chelsea preview, we only got 3 Chelsea players. The rest was Palace players, which I thought was very confusing, in my opinion.
Yes.
But yeah, but we also haven't spoken about Vardy. Does Vardy get a shout in this team? Because I've always rated Vardy, even though he tried to take the piss out of us by doing an eagle.
Oh,
in front
yes.
of us.
Oh, love it. Love it. Jamie Vardy has not scored this season.
Okay.
But nobody will criticise him because he's Jamie Vardy.
Okay.
Now, we know he's 35. He's getting on a little bit, bless him. Those wings aren't flapping like they usually do if he was to score against you. The changing of the guard, we are seeing that this season. What will happen is you will either see Daka play 60 minutes and Vardy come on for 30.
Okay.
Well, say 60-ish, or you'll see it Vardy start it and Daka come on at the end because they're very similar players, can't play together, and he prefers one up front. Does Rodgers, but he's a wanker. So Daka is the one that's in form. We've got a game against Leeds midweek, so Vardy isn't going to be starting both those games. But can you imagine your defence having been given the run around for, say, 70 minutes by Daka, and he is quick, and then you're thinking, thank God he's going off, and oh shit, Vardy's coming on. He can be that super sub.
Hasn't Vardy lost a good chunk of his pace, though?
He has lost more than I have ever, less than I have ever had. What I mean, the guy is still fast, and what he can do in 20 minutes to a team would scare you, unless you're going to bring on your complete back 4 and as 4v5 subs, so they're all fresh. Yeah, he will still. He can't do it for 90 minutes. Like I'm saying, he cannot do it. Daka could, because obviously he's younger. But Vardy, he can't do it for 90 minutes. So, no, he will do it for the 60, or he will come on and do it for the last 20, 30. But unfortunately, he isn't on form at the moment. Again, you could argue, well, is he getting the ball, etc., etc. But no, as things stand at the moment, for me, it's Daka.
All right. Henry says...
There we go.
Exactly what you're saying. I know Henry's a Palace fan. He's always on our fan cams at the end of the match. Need to watch out for Daka. I fear him. Can't take the game lightly. But if we play our best, we can win. What happened to Vardy? I think we've covered that. Mitchell or Justin? I think we just swapped them around before that comment came through. Evening. Oh look, a Bournemouth fan. Is that making you feel some sort of way, Chris?
Funny thing is, I actually live in Poole, which is just outside Bournemouth. And when I did the prediction at the start of the season, I actually had Bournemouth going down. That was, and that upset a few of my Bournemouth supporting friends. But that was only because Scott Parker was there. They've got rid of Scott Parker, and like I say, well done, Bournemouth. You deserved it. You deserved it at the weekend. I can't argue. You had this rookie manager that outthought supposedly one of the best British coaches. So well done.
Hazard said Vardy always rubs it right in when he scores against us.
Oh, yes. And we love to see it.
I think Louis loving it as well, to be fair. I know he's a Palace fan. Vardy too busy paying his wife's court cost.
Don't get me started on that.
Don't worry, that's another stream. That's probably a stream on your channel.
No, I'm avoiding that like the plague.
Good evening, Sean. How you doing? All the way from Jamaica.
Oh, hello, Sean.
Well, this is where we get to the segment where we give our predictions or your predictions. Let me just double check if we've got the updated scores. Is this it? No, this isn't the updated scores. I don't have that slide right now, but let me just try and find it so I could read it off to you guys. It's in the Discord as well. So the total scores run as following. So Rich has got 66 points. I have got 54 points. Nate has got 56 points. Nicky has 55 points. Dan also has 54 points. And the guest has 56 points. So I'm currently joint bottom with Dan, and the guest is 2 ahead of us. So
how the hell do you give points out on your predictions?
So we do 1 point for a correct result,
Right.
and for the correct score. Like, so if tomorrow finishes 3-0 Leicester, and I predict 3-0 Leicester, and you say 1-0 Leicester, you'll get 1 point, but I'll get 3 points.
Fucking hell, that's what I do on mine, but the highest score at the moment is 50. Well, we're on 53, 47, and 35. We're nowhere near you guys.
No, you're nowhere near Rich. He's on 65.
That's what I mean. Well, yes. Although I did have my best week ever. I got 11 points in a week last week, so I had my best week ever.
Funny you should say that, because Nate got the best one ever, and he had this one. Look, he got a 13-point week.
Wow. I had an
Here,
11-point week, so
which I think is pretty crazy.
yeah.
So what we have is we have our league table. So the loser of Eagle-Eyed Football has to do a forfeit at the end of the season. But we also have a guest
Please
league
let
table.
it be Rich. Please let it be Rich.
We have a guest league table as well, and that is also with a guest. So when the guest comes, so hopefully we'll try and get the same guest on both fixtures, so they can have another go if they had a very bad time the first time. Excuse me, next time they can have a maybe try a bit better. So, and if the loser of this, they also have to do a forfeit. So I know no one told you about that, but you signed up to it anyway. So it is what it is.
Rich did not tell me about that.
It's quite funny because I seem to be the one telling everyone about it every week. So
I think I might be washing my hair that night.
So, before we get into it, Jace is up the Palace. We need to win this. Sean says we need to win this. Sorry, Leicester fans. And nice one, Nate. All right, Chris. Let's kick it off, and we'll start with Brentford at home to Brighton.
It'd be interesting to see how Brighton get on with a new manager. But they've obviously had a really good start. But I've got this for an away win, 2-1 to Brighton.
The biggest game of the weekend, Leicester hosting Crystal Palace.
Now then, do I go? Because we do 2 prediction league. I mean, in the prediction league with the ex-Foxes, so the ex-players, and when they give me their results, they're obviously being ex-players, they're all sort of for Leicester, like we're going to beat Man City 5-0 and what have you. Or do I go for my prediction league score, where I need the points more? So that's more.
Or you could do whatever you want.
I'll go for what I predicted in my prediction show, and that is Leicester City 1, Crystal Palace 2. Ooh. I think you could very well beat us.
Okay.
If nothing else, he's put the Guy Bosch on it.
Fulham hosting Bournemouth.
3-1 to Bournemouth. They are on form. You've not lost since the 9-0. I think it's more down to the fact they've not lost since they've sacked Parker. So yeah, keep it up, Bournemouth. 3-1 to them.
Wolves Forest.
Oh well, how could I predict Nottingham Forest to lose? Very easily. However, this is a relegation battle.
Yeah,
both in the bottom 3. So the best result for Leicester would be a 0-0. So I've gone 0-0.
Spurs Everton.
Spurs are going to have a good season. Yeah, they're not quite consistent enough yet, like the North London rivals. But I've gone 3-0 Spurs.
Villa Chelsea.
Villa, another team where the fans are not too happy with the manager, and he's not really been there. I mean, this is his first full season, I think, isn't it? But I'm sorry, Chelsea. I didn't used to rate Potter, but he's proving me wrong. 4-0 Chelsea.
Oh, a big one.
And
Also,
could we please
guys,
have Panty back?
also, guys, you guys can do exactly what Hazard's doing. Put your predictions in the comments below as well. Leeds Arsenal.
Well, what? I'm sure there's an Arsenal fan somewhere or two, and I probably even know who they are, that is still sat there going, well, you know, this Arteta, I don't like the way he's playing. But I mean, well, he has turned it round. Well done to the board for sticking with him against all the hate he got. I mean, Liverpool was a outstanding. All the Arsenal fans were going like, yeah, but we don't do it against the big boys. And okay, they lost to Man City, but yeah, what a great win against Liverpool. I am going again another 4-0 to Arsenal.
Ooh, okay. Manchester United versus Newcastle.
What a great team Newcastle are putting together. Even without Maddison. Great manager, Eddie Howe. Loved what he did down here. They should have a statue of him outside the ground for what he did at Bournemouth. Amazing manager. I think will go on to be a future England manager. Manchester United got the right manager in, will turn it round, but they've got to give it time. But he is showing signs. But it's at Old Trafford, so 1-1.
Southampton hosting West Ham.
Again, yet another club where the fans are revolting a bit about their manager at Southampton. Having said that, they were at West Ham at the start of the season. But again, David Moyes is slowly turning it round, and he'll continue to do so here. And I've gone 2-0 West Ham.
And lastly, probably the most irrelevant game this week, Liverpool Man City.
Oh, what a shame about Liverpool, isn't it? You know, doesn't your heart bleed?
No, not at all.
No. It was it was a sarcastic question. I actually quite like Liverpool. I don't have anything against Liverpool. I probably hate them less than I hate Liverpool, Man United. But this is 2-1 Manchester City. Liverpool are struggling this season. Klopp out, and Manchester City to win this 2-1. Keep the pressure on Arsenal.
Sweet, that is all of the predictions. Nate, how you doing? Do you want to give your quick thoughts on the game before we wrap up?
Yeah, obviously I'm looking forward to going to Leicester. I haven't been since the promotion season in 2012-13. That was exciting. Like I said, you know, you can't really split this game down the middle because it's not a case of Leicester have got 10 wins and we've got 10 wins. It's literally a case of it's potluck as to who goes out there. Like obviously last season we lost 2-1 there. Dewsbury, or was it 3-1 actually? I think it might have been 3-1 actually. But Dewsbury Hall scored a fantastic goal for Leicester, and obviously myself and Chris did a watch along on his channel for it. But I'm looking forward to the game, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as some Palace fans have made out on Twitter early on this week. Some of them are saying, oh, yeah, we should slap these 4-0. And I'm like, we couldn't even slap Leeds 4-0, and Leeds were awful in that second half. So be careful getting ahead of yourselves and trying to put the cart before the horse. It's not really going to match up there, you know, but it just depends on who wants it more, really. Like if Leicester come out all guns blazing and completely blitzkrieg us, we could be in trouble. But at the same time, if Leicester start shaky and nervy, we capitalize on that with a home crowd that aren't necessarily sure of themselves. They're there for the taking, and Chris will agree with me. You know, if you don't start well at home, the away team can capitalize on that. Look at us last week. Leeds got an early goal, and you could tell Palace were a little bit nervy in that first half until we got the equaliser completely against the run of play. So
one of my
it's going to be a tight one.
Yeah, one of my co-hosts, Brad, he always says that the whoever we play will go and put the ball in their own net to give us the lead because we always crumble when we go ahead. So Yeah, if you get an early first goal, then the crowd will turn. The crowd they will support the team for the 90 minutes, but if things aren't going well, then, and this was my fear against Forest, we performed for that game and we thought, well, maybe Rodgers is turning it round. We'd got 4, and no disrespect, because you probably look at Leicester, like you say, and think we're winnable, but we thought we had 4 winnable games. I wanted a new manager in before that. They decided to keep Rodgers. We thought with Forest, oh, here we go. We've got it. Again, no disrespect to Bournemouth. He cocked it up again with his substitutions in the second half. I am scared. I'm not going to be honest. I'm going to be watching this from behind my couch. I'm going back to the 8-year-old me that used to watch Doctor Who from behind the couch when the Daleks came on. I'm just. It's going to be.
Listen, Chris, we're going to be there. So we're going to be soaking up everything that the King Power has to offer. But hopefully, you've been those god awful clappers, because oh god. They're awful.
We have. You don't. Whether. Oh bloody hell! I had a clapper.
You don't want to put it out, Chris. You get sin binned. That happens here a lot.
I don't know where my clapper's gone. My clapper has gone.
That's a good thing then. Because, do you know what, Chris? I'm one of those fans.
Right. I mean, do you remember years ago when they had those wooden rattles?
Yeah, the wooden rattles. Yeah.
What was it? Nothing was wrong with them. So what's wrong with a clapper? A man and his clapper in hand. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, we've got history with clappers on the South Coast. So yeah, it's plus we've had them ourselves and it wasn't well received when we had them. So it's like, no. But look, each to their own. I mean, look, we've got a couple of things at Palace that a lot of people don't like, so we can't really hate on other people's stuff if we ourselves have a few things that people are like. Really,
we brought it in, and it kept, just as it sort of turned around, we stayed up in the Premier League, and they'd stuck with it ever since. But when we're looking at costs, it's one of the things that had to go.
Oh no, don't get me wrong, Chris. Obviously, look, that famous Great Escape you had was fantastic, but that's
this is what we're planning to do. We're planning to do it again. We're lulling everybody into a false sense of perspective. We want to be bottom till gone Christmas again, and then we'll come back.
Because unfortunately, QPR aren't in the league this season. That's the problem we have.
All right, lads. I think this is.
Palace are.
I think this is the perfect place to wrap up. Yeah, I think this is the perfect place to wrap up. We're having another show on Chris's channel at 9:20, I believe.
Yeah, we go live at 9, but I do 20 minutes of stats. So rather than have you sit there and for 20 minutes twiddling your thumbs, come on, 9:15, 9:20. But the show itself starts at 9.
So, Chris, for all of our viewers, shout yourself out, mate.
Yeah, we can see it as it says there on YouTube, Leicester Till I Die TV, on Twitter at Leicester TID. I'm on everything in one form or another, Facebook, Twitch, and everything else. I'm also doing radio shows now. So if you go over to mixcloud.com/LTID radio, so mixcloud.com/LTID radio, give us a follow. Got one coming up tomorrow at 6 o'clock. It's all about fun banter, football talk, and a lot of music thrown in as well to try and cheer us up. So check us out on there.
Sweet. And Nate, if you'd like to join me, I think this is the perfect way to end the stream. We clap with our hands. Yes. We clap with our hands. We're Crystal Palace, and we clap with our hands.
Questions to ask throughout a campaign with the confidence rising. I told JC, Nate and Rich that good times are coming, no need for deep diving. Van Cam's reactions, watch along to the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South stay flying. Keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.